And it may not be perfect. This is my quick. Okay, I'm going to do 4 here. Oh, no. I did the numbers wrong. We're just going to go until we get to the end. So Vince, Sammy, you may get left off. Okay, good enough. That's more important that it's read than it's...
Okay, resolution number 20-1002, acknowledgement of Indigenous Peoples Day. Whereas Christopher Columbus, a man who is inaccurately described as having discovered the Americas, came upon land that was already inhabited by indigenous peoples, and whereas Columbus's voyage to the Americas led to the introduction of transatlantic slavery, land dispossession, and genocidal acts against indigenous people, and whereas the city of Corvallis and current-day Benton County are on lands fully inhabited by the Kalapuya people before removal for settlers, and
Whereas education is a necessary component for creating a more equitable and anti-racist community, nation, and world. And whereas the Corvallis School District has made a commitment to equity and anti-racism. And whereas the Corvallis School District has an opportunity to uniquely reach and educate children as touchstone in the community. And
whereas the Corvallis School District has a responsibility to honor and respect the diverse histories of our community, and whereas the Corvallis School District recognizes and acknowledges the significant contributions made in our community by Indigenous people and commits to ensure greater understanding of these contributions by all students through Oregon SB 13 curriculum, and whereas the idea of Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the United Nations.
And whereas the state of Oregon does not formally recognize Columbus Day, and whereas the city of Corvallis has proclaimed the second day of October as Indigenous Peoples Day in Corvallis since 2015, and whereas the state of Oregon has proclaimed the second day of October as Indigenous Peoples Day in Oregon since 2017.
Whereas this day should be recognized for the indigenous peoples of the Americas. Therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of Education of the Corvallis School District.
Do hereby proclaim Monday, October 12, 2020, as well as the second Monday of October annually as Indigenous Peoples Day in the district, and strongly encourage families, staff, and community members to join in existing local Indigenous Peoples Day celebrations. And encourage all schools in the district to help highlight this day in great appropriate ways, as well as highlight the contributions of Indigenous peoples to the local community, nation, and beyond, both historically and in current times. Adopted this day, October 8, 2020.
Signed.
thank you. No. So the next item on the agenda is action on the matters that were discussed in executive session. As you know, we are not at liberty to discuss anything that took place in executive session. You received sample wording for the options available to the board during our meeting. If you plan to propose wording other than that provided, please write out your motion in its entirety before reading it aloud. Does anyone wish to make a motion?
Madam Chair,
Director Adams.
I move that the board sustains the findings of the Assistant Superintendent with the exception of the action cited in item number 2 and direct the district to remove the related warning from the student's record.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It has been moved by Director Adams and seconded by Director Jones that we act on the items considered in executive session. I'm going to take a vote. Director Whitebear,
Aye.
Director Tomedy,
Aye.
Director Jones,
Aye.
Director Adams,
Aye.
Director Baker,
Aye.
Director Labdaba,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Passes unanimously. Okay. So the next item on our agenda is board member reports. Does anyone have anything they wish to share? Pardon me? Sure. Yeah.
I was just going to say several of us went to the CHS Safe mural reveal, and thanks for the invite. And it was really beautiful to see how much effort went into that and how much the students worked on it and the staff, and it turned out amazing. And they hosted a really great event too, with lots of good food and positive energy.
My only report is that there is an OSBA roadshow on Monday, October 17th at 5:45 is when dinner is served. I think the meeting itself will start at 6. It's at the Albany School District office. I encourage you to attend if you were able to. I was going to say I could give people a ride, but I have to be there early, so don't ask me for a ride.
I would like to report on the same notes of the roadshow. I just came back from John Day. Last night they had the Prairie City roadshow at Grant County, and I had the pleasure and honor to meet people there, board members, superintendents, and principals, and learn about common issues across the state that impacts education and how we can advocate for public education, especially in the upcoming legislative session. A theme that came up is how can we encourage board members to engage and get involved in training, and I feel very grateful that we have been committed to this work way early on. And as well, I was honored to be chosen by OSBA Board of Directors as the incoming president-elect, so I'll be serving as president in 2024. I want to thank you for your support, and it's a great opportunity to bring Corvallis voice to the state platform and also share the lessons learned across the state. And just last weekend, I got appointed by the NSBA board as the regional director for the Pacific region, representing 5 states. I think it is at least the first time in about a decade to have Oregon represented at the National School Board Association Board of Directors. I want to thank you really for the support doing this work. I just got assigned a mentor as a new board member, which is a really interesting concept. So a board member from Boulder is going to get me to learn about the process, and I already have some thoughts and ideas about our board and maybe adopting a process that's formalized mentorship programs for incoming board members. Yeah, that's my report.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing all that extra work for schools, Sammy.
All that extra volunteer work.
Yeah. So nobody else? So next on our agenda is our superintendent's report.
All right, I will make sure it's brief tonight as we're starting a little bit late. First off, I want to thank our student representatives for joining us this year. We're really excited to have you join us and for the opportunity to hear your viewpoints and perspectives as we have conversations about things that happen in our schools that directly impact you. So it's always a really valuable component of what happens with our school board. Charlotte is, I think, our one student who's done this once before, a year before or year prior. And I do think that, typically we meet in at our school board, our board room at the district office, and we try to have student art up just to kind of remind us about who we're making decisions for. But that doesn't feel quite the same as this year where we're in a school, and also have you coming and sharing your experiences as students in our school. So If you wouldn't mind tonight just introducing yourself, sharing your name, what school you're representing, and just maybe what schools you've been in Corvallis, because again, it helps us to have perspective about what your experiences have been over time with us, as we hear more from you throughout the year. So if you don't mind just introducing yourself, that would be fantastic. Damien, do you want to go first?
Hi, my name is Damien Ricks-Patrick. I'm representing College Hill High School.
And prior to College Hill, you've been at Linus Pauling, right?
Yeah, I've gone to Linus Pauling and Lincoln Elementary.
Thanks.
My name is Celia, and I'm representing College Hill as well. And I've been to Shuttleton, Adams, and Wilson.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Hi, my name is Emily Matsuba, and I'm representing CHS, Corvallis High School, and I've been to Franklin School K-8.
My name is Lucy Brown. I'm also here representing CHS, and I started here at Lincoln, and then I also went to Linus Pauling.
So the gym feels a little different to you now.
Definitely.
Awesome. Thanks for being here tonight. And Charlotte and Zoe, your voices are as quiet as mine. And so just to make sure to bring it close as you introduce yourself. And again, as you insert into conversations we have, because again, we want that to be, I know it feels a little bit different this year because it's kind of a bigger space, a little bit more dramatic, TV cameras and all of that. But really, we do want to hear your voices and perspectives because it totally matters. So thanks for being here. A couple of other things, just briefly. We are in the communications audit that just started. We've sent out emails to community members, to staff members, to get more input, specifically related to our communications department. Some of the things we've talked about before is a process of reviewing our board goals, which is underway, but also communications audit is similar time. Aspects of it are more, so we get a better sense of how communication is happening within our system, but outward facing as well in terms of what kinds of communications are being sent to families. Is it direct? Is it the kinds of information that families need? And so I would encourage you to go ahead and complete that survey. It's on our website on the banner as one spot to find it. Also, it's coming through Parent Square and some other channels as well. So again, we have had some participation. We're always looking for more. We tend to get strong participation in our community when we send out surveys, but we want to make sure that that's really gives us a broad picture of how to better communicate with families. And so Kelly in the back is championing that work, and we look forward to seeing changes happen based on the information we receive from the community. Also, I was going to mention the OSBA meeting on Monday, but taken care of by Sarah. And then the other thing was to, two things. One is to prepare the board at our next meeting. The Corvallis Public Schools Foundation will be here, and they will be coming to get some feedback from you as they work to fill their executive director position. So between now and next Thursday, if you have time to think about some of those qualities and characteristics, that would help us to move that conversation forward. And then they're going to be providing some information to all of you related to our board goals. I met with Shauna and Sarah today to come up with some questions that will be shared and asked of the foundation board. Again, as you're working on revising your board goals, it's another opportunity to hear from a community group and to have better understanding both of what language we use, clarity, also alignment between their work and the work of the board. So it will be a really good conversation, and I just want you to be prepared. And then finally, next Thursday as well, There will be a renaming ceremony at Letitia Carson Elementary prior to the start of the board meeting, so I'd encourage you to attend as well. There will be a chance to hear from community members, organizations that have been involved in telling her story. It will also be a chance to see the new building and to see some beautiful artwork that's being by descent. Great opportunity for us to be together prior to the board meeting next week. So I just wanted to make sure that I brought that to your attention. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the chair.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is public comment. I will now open the public hearing for testimony. The complete guidelines for public comment are available on the registration table. I'm not sure, it says at the back of the room, but that's from, so at the back of the room. At the back of the gym and on the board's website. I will share a few important points now. When it's your turn to speak, please come forward, have a seat, state your name, and direct your comments to the board. The speakers may offer objective criticism of district operations and programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning individual district personnel. As a reminder, you will have 3 minutes to make your comments. We will alert you with the light. The yellow light will come on when you have 30 seconds remaining, and the red light will come on when your time is up. Following your comments, the board will have 3 minutes to ask clarifying questions if they wish. Before you start your comment, please state your name for the record and state whether you reside within the district boundary. So who?
Can you say that for me one more time, Ashley? Okay.
BONN.
Okay.
Beautiful. So I have an 8th grader who is very excited to go to high school next year. I've been following social media, and a couple of things have come up recently, so I wanted to make sure that I voiced my opinion because I do have a high schooler coming up. Recently on social media, the book The Kite Runner has come under attack, which is fine, it's cool. It's also been part of our curriculum for a very long time. So I ask, why now? If this hasn't come up before, why would we get rid of it now? I also feel like it's an important piece of literature. I also feel like if we're going to talk about books, we can really talk about some books because there is a tragic story of a father who sacrifices his virgin daughter to a roaming mad of sex offenders, and that's in the Bible. So we really shouldn't be banning a book or bringing up concerns about a book when most of the situations, sorry, I have a cold. Most of the situations in this book are relevant today and important for our young adults who are practicing becoming adults to have that opportunity to learn. And instead of criticizing this book and taking it for certain aspects and certain quotes out of the book that I'm sure our high school children have heard much worse from peers, we should take the opportunity to have conversations with our young adults and coach them and educate them and open their eyes, because the book The Kite Runner is based on a different country going through a massive transition. It's when the Taliban takes over and the majority and the minority overturn, and it's a beautiful piece of literature. So to take it and rip it apart and take away that opportunity for our young adults is disappointing. And so I'm just here to make sure that the school board remembers this, and I'm sure this book has been brought up before, and there's a reason that it's still in our curriculum, and it's still important, and it is still valid. It also hurt my heart a lot because a lot of the social media messages slandered members of our school board and educators in our school district. So the people that are criticizing this book have very little respect for our educators and the members of our school board. And I think it's sad. So I just wanted to say, keep the curriculum, because there's a reason it's in place. That's all. I feel like question. Thank you.
Before I begin, I do have a question for the board. I was not aware that students were going to be here. I'm not sure what your policy is on sexually explicit topics with students present.
It's a public meeting, so they could be watching it on YouTube right now, too.
Okay, then if that, yeah. Ironically, I'm also speaking regarding the book Kite Runner. Oh, my name is Valerie. Yes, I am within Corvallis District. I've got 3 kids that attend high school here. Seraphin, A-F-I-N. Anyway, I'm also addressing the book Kite Runner from a bit of a different perspective. This book was brought to my attention by my sophomore. It was assigned reading. And the content is, well, I will read it. What a tight little sugary cunt she had. The soldier was saying, shaking hands with the others, gritting. Kamal and Wally each gripped an arm, twisted and bent at the elbow so that Hassan's hands were pressed to his back. Asaf was standing over them, the heel of his snow boot crushing the back of Hassan's neck. Asaf knelt behind Hassan, put his hands on Hassan's hips, and lifted his bare buttocks. He kept one hand on Hassan's back and undid his own belt buckle with his free hand. He unzipped his jeans, dropped his underwear. He positioned himself behind Hassan. Hassan didn't struggle. I pretended I hadn't heard the crack in his voice, just like I pretended I hadn't seen the dark stain on the seat of his pants or those tiny drops that fell from between his legs and stained the snow black. My mind flashed to that winter day 6 years ago, me peering around the corner in the alley, Kamal and Wally holding Hassan down. Asaf's buttocks muscles clenching and unclenching, his hips thrusting back and forth. A good question was asked previously, why has nothing been said now? The fact that this book has been in this curriculum for quite some time is extremely concerning. It is not to say that these topics are not important. These things happen, what people go through in other countries. Our children do need to be made aware of. But it can be done in a manner that does not subject our kids to sexually explicit material, that does not subject our children to scenes of rape, we need to be setting the example. And this book does not do that. There are many different ways that we can address these issues while respecting our children. There's one of the other major issues is, have we considered those that have been victims of rape? For boys, I mean, as a female, it may be a little bit different. Boys that have been subjected to rape before, it's extremely triggering. There is no warning, there is no notice sent to parents, there was no pre-opting out. I did request an alternative assignment, and she was assigned Great Expectations. There are alternatives to this book. And there are other ways of teaching what other countries, what the people go through, what other countries are like, and other ways of discussing these particular topics without the graphic images in our children's heads. So that's all. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. My name's Melissa Norland. I do reside within the district. I have a high schooler at Crescent Valley High School. I'm here to address the current vaccine requirement for our school district volunteers. I was recently made aware that unlike school staff and teachers, for volunteers, an exception or exemption is not something that is available for volunteers. I wonder why, if anybody can answer that question. On the OHA website, it describes the requirement for students, for staff, teachers, and volunteers. They're all lumped together. It does not decipher that one group can receive an exemption and the other cannot. It does describe clearly that the school district should uphold the religious or medical exemption, and that it does not exclude it. Let's see, excuse me. So it says, nothing in this rule is intended to prohibit schools or school-based programs from complying with the Americans with Disabilities Act and Title VII of the Civil Rights Act and state law equivalents for individuals unable to be vaccinated due to a medical condition or sincerely held religious belief. So I just wonder, it seems like it is within people's right to decline the vaccine and to state their reason, whether it's medically justified or religiously justified. And to not present that to me just makes it seem like the school district is being discriminatory to those that have chosen not to take the vaccine. The children and families are very well aware of the situation. I think every single family, kids, parents have had these discussions amongst themselves. Now what they are discussing amongst themselves is the fact that the school district is not allowing these parent volunteers that are wanting to be part of their child's education. They are needed because volunteers, staff, teachers, our district is in dire need of all of these things. So to continue to not allow that is in real time demonstrating and teaching our children what discrimination and bigotry is. So I ask you to seriously talk to each other and consider removing that rule that is unique to this Corvallis School District. Philomath allows volunteers to have exemptions, Salem, Portland, Beaverton. We are unique, and I wonder why. Who is responsible for making that decision? I have emailed you, Superintendent Ross. I haven't received an answer, so I am here. I hope that somebody can provide that.
Are you able to share why we have maintained our policy of not allowing exemptions for volunteers?
Yeah, so at this point, the reason we've done that is because it requires an individual meeting with each parent volunteer to set an exemption standard. So scheduling meetings with each parent volunteer is a piece that our Human Resources Department would need to take on. Up to this point, they've been in the process of filling positions for the school year with our hiring, both our HR and our finance department. And so to us, what the capacity needed to be focused on up to this point had been on getting our staff hired. And so what we have to think about now is what is it going to look like in terms of time and the additional costs of staffing to hold exemption meetings with every parent who wants to volunteer who has an exception. And so that's what we're looking at now.
Well, may I respond? Is that something that are we able to have a dialogue? Oh, okay. Okay. I just didn't see anywhere in OHA that discussed a meeting for each individual exemption. The rule states There's a form that one fills out. That's it. Okay.
I'm sorry, but your time has
Yep.
expired.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
My name is Becky Diversich. I do reside in the Corvallis School District. I'm a mother of 3 boys in the Corvallis School District, and I am an exempted ER nurse. And I am the Corvallis School District captain for the Oregon Moms Union. And would like to speak about my concerns regarding the Corvallis School District still not allowing COVID vaccine exemptions for volunteers. I did reach out to my fellow captains in addition to Albany, Philomath, Alsea, Monroe. I was told Eugene, Springfield, and Salem-Kaiser allow exempted volunteers. And it is my understanding that these school districts, they haven't hired extra staff. They accept the exemptions just like they accept the vaccine cards at face value. So there's a process that it doesn't have to be as complex, it seems, that you guys are doing right now. I have been told by Ms. Finger McDonald, our Human Resources Department's time is being consumed by hiring and background checks. We do not have the capacity to process vaccine exemptions. To put it bluntly, I'm concerned that this is just an excuse. The same school board members who are here today were on the school board last October when they were proposing that our children be mandated to get the COVID vaccine. That ended up not working out, and I'm concerned that the board members are holding on to not allowing unvaxxed volunteers because they still hold judgments of the unvaccinated. I got an email. I would actually be interested to know how many of you got a 3rd, 4th, or 5th shot. I know of a few fellow nurses who got a 3rd, 0 who got a 4th or 5th. Most have told me there's no freaking way they will be getting any more COVID vaccines. I did get an email from my youngest son's elementary school on Tuesday. It was titled, "Calling All Volunteers." It said, "We are working hard to plan and run several fun and memorable activities for our kids this year at Adams. Unfortunately, some events are at risk of being canceled because we do not have the number of volunteers needed to make them happen," end quote. I personally would be able to volunteer for most of those activities, and there's other moms at Adams who are also available if you guys were able to change your rules. My youngest son has been struggling at school. He isn't reading yet and recently started wearing a mask again because he doesn't want to talk at school. He needs me to be there for him. And because I won't take this vaccine that I've seen with my own eyes in the ER hurt many people, it's unfair, unjust, and cruel to me and to him. Please reconsider your discriminatory policy of not allowing unvaccinated volunteers. I and others who are barred from volunteering won't be just standing by waiting for the school district to follow OHA guidelines for much longer. Thank you for your time.
Sorry, that closes the public hearing part of the meeting. The next item on our agenda is the dual language immersion update.
Thank you all for being here tonight and for our families as well.
Well, good evening. Can you hear us okay? Okay, all right.
Marcy,
Can you hear me now? Yeah, all right. Good evening, everybody. It's just so wonderful to be here with all of you. And as I was reflecting on this evening's presentation, it's hard to believe that it was 7 years since the dual language program has presented. So hopefully tonight you'll have an opportunity to get to know all of us, as well as get to know the amazing programming and what we're proud of in our dual language program, as well as hear from some of our students who are teachers, our students who work for our Corvallis School District, and students who are currently in the dual language program and they want to share their stories. So again, thank you for this opportunity. We're really excited. So I will go ahead and start us off. And I wanted to start off with a video. In this video, our communications department helped us put together a little while ago, and I don't think it's been publicly shared, so I think it's wonderful that we're going to get to share this video with you tonight. What I did want to say about this video is that you're going to recognize a lot of the voices. You're also going to recognize a lot of the faces. And I was recently in grocery shopping in a store, and I bumped into one of our parents whose child attends a dual language program. And he looked into my eyes and he said, "My son's teacher is a national treasure." And he was talking about one of the teachers here at Lincoln. And I remember saying, yes, she's a treasure. And I also wanted to say that our teachers, our educators, our assistants, all the folks that work in our dual language program are national treasures. And I think we would all agree, right? Yes. So we're going to show this video, and then we'll get into our presentation.
In the dual immersion program, it does tend to be a pretty close-knit community, and I think it's a community that extends beyond the classroom. We have more head-on conversation and we have more example because we have a deliberately combined demographic of students, and they can really take advantage of discussing those things and learning from each other about them.
I think all of the DLI teachers, what makes them so engaging is that they make the space very safe for everybody.
They're okay with whoever you are. They truly care about you.
Cuando yo vine aquí, no creí que iba a tener la oportunidad de regresar a mi profesión. Yo no creí que iba a poder ser maestra otra vez en este país. Y el programa de doble inmersión me dio la oportunidad de venir otra vez y hacer lo que es mi vocación.
The rewarding part for me is me being able to connect with them as a Hispanic person, to have them see that one of their own has a position like mine.
I didn't ever have the opportunity to be in a dual immersion program. I just didn't get to have that K through 12 experience of learning in Spanish. And I love working as a teacher in the program.
Estoy aquí porque quiero estar aquí y estoy aquí porque disfruto estar aquí.
Our program isn't going to change the world, but I think that we are changing the people that are going to change the world. We have kids in our classroom who are going to go out and make a difference in their community. And I think that the teachers here and our staff here in our dual immersion program have the same vision for them.
In the dual immersion program, it does tend to be a pretty close-knit.
I know, it's just a beautiful video. It's just beautiful. And so that was Irma Bañuelos and Amanda Fioy-Sharp, who did the voiceover, and Amanda, along with Carrie Woodruff, are our new DLI and ELL TOSAs. So we're just really excited to have that. So tonight, you're going to hear a lot of updates. You're going to get a chance to hear from our amazing administrators on the programming that they're excited about at their respective schools. And hopefully what you'll hear tonight is unity, right? Unidos, right, Erin? And because this is a K-12 dual language program, we believe that our students, as they move from elementary to middle and high, it's an experience that really requires a lot of collectivism, a lot of alignment between all of us. So I'm hopeful as you leave here tonight, you'll hear a lot of that in a lot of the things that we're going to share. So I have the honor to share some data with you, some overall district data, and I will kind of go through it fairly quickly because I really want to make sure to give voice to our administrators and to our students and that are sitting back there. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started. So what you see in front of you is the 59, all the languages that we have represented in our district. And it's just really exciting to know that we have 59 languages of origin. On the right side of the column, you're going to see the 20 highest languages spoken in our district. And currently, our top 5 or our top 4 languages are English, Spanish, Chinese Mandarin, and Arabic. Our goals. So when I think about our goals, these are goals that were established when our program first began in 2001. So think about where we all were in 2001. And so our goals, and these are the goals that we stand by, that are part of our vision. And when we think about making decisions as a dual language program, we always go back to these goals. And they are bilingualism and biliteracy, grade level academic achievement, cross-cultural competence. And when I think about our racial equity work as a district that we accelerated in 2013, I also have to think about our program, our dual language program, was one of the first steps that we took as a district to really elevate the voices of our students of color. And that was back in 2001, 22 years ago. So it just goes to show that our dual language program was one of the first big steps to ensure that our students have culturally responsive and socially just classrooms. So here you will see a timeline. I love timelines. I won't go through every single date, but just wanted to highlight a couple of dates. First off, our dual language program started back in 2001, really based on the idea that when we looked at our graduation rates for our Latino students, they had about a 50-50 chance of graduating from our system. So we knew that we needed to do something different. And so dual language was the model that we chose based on research. There's a famous graph by Thomas and Collier, and Thomas and Collier talk about the different models to support multilingual students. And one of the models that they say, based on research, there's tons of information out there that talks about dual language as being one of the most effective programs for our dual language schools, or students, or in our Latino students. So that's why, that was kind of the premise as to why we started the program. As you can see, it started at Garfield, expanded to Lincoln, expanded to the middle school, and expanded to the high school as of 2009. We did create a DLI task force, which many of us were on, and the purpose of that task force was to ensure that we had full dual language opportunities for all our students entering into Lincoln and Garfield Elementary. So that was a pivotal moment in our program. Next, I'm gonna go to the next page. Next, you will see just from 2017, a lot of the things that we have grown as a program, including piloting collaborative co-teaching, thinking about not pulling students out of their classroom and including them where in the classroom setting where they have access to peers and access to content. Around 2017, we also expanded from a 50-50 model to a 70-30 model. And then soon after that, we adopted a curriculum, Adelante. And we made sure that this curriculum was not a translation, but authentic materials that were actually written in Spanish first, then translated into English. Think about that, right? Okay. And there's more, and they're gonna share. So I'm excited for you to hear from them. So I also wanted to spend just a minute talking about who is participating in our dual language program. And as you can see, we have in our current enrollment in our district, we have 6,348 brilliant students. And out of those students, we have 1,297 students participating in our dual language program, which is about 20% of our student population participating in dual language. Pretty awesome. Next, I wanted to quickly share our race and ethnicity. So 43% of our students participating in the dual language program are white, 6% multiracial, 46% Latinx, 1% Black, 1% Asian, 1% American Indian, Alaskan Native. Students participating in special programs. In our dual language program, 10% of our student population receive special ed services, 25% are English language learners or multilingual students, and 50% of our students receive free or reduced lunches. Okay, and this is probably why you came tonight. How are our students doing? Okay, there's one slide we just have to pause and I'll do because it's really exciting. So in terms of the growth of our students, yes. So in this slide, what you can see is at the end of a student's high school experience, they take the AP exam, AP Spanish exam. And so what you can see in front of you is the number of students who, during the 21-22 school year, took the AP Spanish, and students who received a 3 or higher. And 95 students from CHS took this exam and passed, and you can see the comparison between Oregon and global, and those are international. And so you can see that there was a high percentage of students who took this test and passed it. Many of these students some of these students aren't in dual language, but most of them were. So it's just really exciting to see that students are participating in a rigorous assessment and doing well. Here I have these next 3 slides are connected to the growth from 2014 to 2022, right? And so here we see the increase in 9th grade on track to graduate, an 11% growth for Latinx students. And again, I want us to remind us that this program was developed and is for our Latinx students. And so you can see the growth from 2014 to now, from 72 to 83%. This next slide is, and this is the one I kind of wanted us to pause, right? Damien was like, oh my gosh, this is great. So how graduation rates have changed from 2014 to 2021, from 65% in 2014 to 92%. We believe there's, I think, a lot of reasons why our students are doing well and thriving in our district, but my belief is that it has to do a lot with our Latinx students participating in our dual language program. Here we have post-secondary enrollment in the first year after graduation, so you can see the growth over time, particularly in our Latinx community, from 59 to 68%. All right. So the Oregon Seal of Biliteracy, I know we've talked about this in the past, but just a little bit of background. Corvallis was one of 4 districts who piloted the Seal of Biliteracy back in 2014. So you can see we had 14 students who earned the Seal of Biliteracy back in 2014. And overall, we have awarded 448 seals of biliteracy. And I just, hot off the press, we have about 90 more seals that we expect to award for the class of 2022. So 448 plus 90, somebody do the math. That's a lot. All right. Okay, so last slide before I pass it on to my amazing colleagues. This is a visual that I just, again, going back to how we started. This is a K. Oh, yes, Charlotte.
Hi, I was just curious, for the seals of biliteracy, are they for all languages? Because I know you can't. Or is it specifically for Spanish?
Yes, they are for all languages. Yes, yes. And last year, we awarded seals of biliteracy for students who spoke Chinese Mandarin, French, Portuguese, German. Yes, great question. That's why the students are here. This is great. So this visual, I just wanted to kind of represent that this is a K-12 program. This students to learn another language, sometimes for our students it's their 3rd or 4th language. It takes anywhere from 7 to 9 years to acquire language. And so oftentimes we ask our parents to be patient and our students to be patient too, because it takes time, right? This also represents the unity and the progression that our students experience as they go from elementary to middle to high, with the end goal, earning the Seal of Biliteracy, graduating, and being career and college ready. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Nancy Davila Williams.
My name is Nancy Davila Williams. I'm the principal at Garfield Elementary School. I'm also a product of the Corvallis School District. My family is from San Luis Potosí, Mexico. I was born in Texas, and then we kept going up north, and I went to Mountain View, Sheldon, Crescent Valley, OSU, and then Portland State. Anyway, that's another story. So yeah, I'm a product of the Corvallis School District, but I think that one thing that I've really taken from this experience is that my experience as a teacher in dual language has brought me full circle back to really connecting with my roots, going from Nancy Davila, that happened over time, back to Nancy Davila Williams. So thank you, district, for that. A little bit about Garfield Elementary School. I thought it was going to be up there, so I could be up there. Okay, thank you. Our enrollment is at about 382 students. All of our students are participating in dual language, kinder through 5th grade. These are our numbers broken down by grade level. As you can see, we have higher numbers in kinder, 1st and 2nd, and our smaller numbers in 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But a little bit about our teachers. We have 3 teachers at each grade level, K through 2. They are all bilingual teachers. And those teachers are all teaching 70% of the time in Spanish. And so they're all self-contained classrooms where they, like I said, spend most of their time teaching in Spanish. And then third, fourth, and fifth grade teachers are also bilingual teachers for the most part. Third grade has 3 classrooms. We have 50% of the time in Spanish and 50% of the time in English, each self-contained. Fourth grade starts to move more into a self-contained model and then a more traditional model of the 2 teachers sharing groups, 1 in Spanish and 1 in English. And then fifth grade, we're down to 2 teachers. One of them teaches in Spanish and one of them teaches in English, which is a great time to have that model because they're preparing to go off to the middle school where they are transitioning into many different classes. Yeah. So our demographics for Garfield, we have 49% Latino, 40% white, 2% black, 2% Asian Pacific Islander, 1% American Indian, Alaska Native, and 7% that identify as multiracial. The exciting thing about that, on top of having such a diverse student population, is that our teaching population reflects that same percentage of people of color in the teaching ranks and the leadership ranks. And we all know that it's great for students to see themselves reflected in the leadership in the school because then they can see themselves being in those roles in the future. We have a SAFE group at Garfield. We're in our 2nd year of our SAFE group that's being led by our wonderful Veronica Lepe, our PE teacher, who's a Latina, that is students advocating for equity. We are starting into our mariachi experience. We really thank the community for all of their support in providing mariachi instruments and funds for buying mariachi instruments. We actually really slowed that process down intentionally because we really wanted to make sure that we approached this carefully and respectfully to make sure to represent that culture well. Having so many students from the culture that mariachi comes from, we really wanted to make sure that we were connected to members of the community who could help us roll that out well. And so Ryan connected us with Victor Villegas at OSU Mariachi STEAM Camp, and he and our music teacher are rolling that out together. And so slowing it down was worth the wait, and now we're ready to get into that. We're also applying for a grant to bring back, to start monthly Guatemalan nights to try to connect further with our Guatemalan community and see what we can do to develop that relationship with them and really just hear what those needs are and what they would define being connected as versus us telling them what connected is and how we want them to be connected. We just want to grow our relationship and see how we can further connect with the Guatemalan community. Our leadership team has now moved to be our equity team because we want all things at Garfield to be done and decided through a lens of equity, really making sure that we're being mindful of the impact that our decisions are making on our population. And then a celebration also is that 68% of students at Garfield demonstrated above average growth in reading in one language or the other based on STAR. And this is information from last year during a pandemic. So it's a celebration, and I think it just shows where we're headed. The other piece that I really want to celebrate about that is the equal importance that the district is giving to the 2 languages that the students are learning and navigating throughout their educational career. So I really am appreciative of that focus. We did the Youth Truth Survey, and out of the Youth Truth Survey, we learned that 92% of students and staff feel that people at their school value people of different races and ethnicities. And that is a celebration, because that is something that we just want to be natural and organic at our school because of who we are and who we serve. However, one thing that did come out of that was that we need to focus on reconnecting kids and staff. I feel like we really were impacted greatly by the pandemic, and things that were taken away were things that really brought us together in person, assemblies, meetings, all of these other pieces that we had to do to keep people safe, but we're really looking forward to getting back to so that we can address that need for our school. Thank you.
Committed to stay past 8 o'clock if you don't want to.
Except I'm about to go, so you want to sit down. No, I'm kidding. It's good to see many familiar faces.
Just so folk online heard what Sarah said, the students don't have to stay past 8, but they're welcome to. So thank you all.
Because we want them to all get their homework done.
Yes, good to see you all.
And go to bed early.
I was principal of 3 of these students right over here, so go get your homework done. It's good to be with you and good to be with this team. We have opportunities to meet frequently and really calibrate and celebrate and spend time thinking about how to make our program what we know it can become for students as this growth mindset. As a principal of Lincoln Elementary, I think back to when I was a teacher here starting in 1997, a few years ago, and just seeing the growth of the program and knowing that we have lots of growth ahead. We have 338 students this year, and all of our students are in the program, unlike when we had a school within a school. And just the unity that we experienced through that change has been fantastic. So we appreciate the board's move and support in doing that several years ago. Our demographics are also listed there, where I want to honor the metaphor of we want to provide mirrors and windows for our students so that they can see themselves and that they can see others through their learning experiences. And so the demographics of our students really reflect in who they get to see in front of them each day. And I'm very appreciative of the support that we've had in moving towards that direction, which is a far cry from where students experienced when I first began teaching, and it was a lot of white teachers. And so I'm celebrating that, and you can look at those percentages as well. We have some exciting pictures to kind of highlight things from last year. Right here on this floor at the end of our year, we had a chance to celebrate our 5th graders and our kindergartners as they were moving on, and our first opportunity to bring families back in to celebrate learning in that way. So Ballet Folklorico in the picture with the dancing that happened to celebrate that end of year was awesome. Our SAFE group that's in the picture right next door is also a celebration that's reflected in our schools, where Mayra Juarez is our 5th grade teacher, and our SAFE coordinator was also a 5th grade student here at Lincoln when she came from Mexico. And just to come back and share her experience and bring that lens has been amazing. Down below kind of reflects our intention as we came into more opportunity to be out and about last year, where all grade levels had a chance to experience field trips. And the La Twinning project that is at both of our schools, the Aves Compartidas, is in our vision aligned with district goals of real world learning, is an exciting partnership that we have going at both Garfield and Lincoln. In the Youth Truth Survey, I wanted to highlight the notion that I think is one of our overarching goals in dual language is that everyone belongs, and making that a priority so that if a student comes here, they know that they're going to have a safe space to learn. And both belonging and instructional methods were reported in the 87th percentile, where students felt again that what and how they were learning mattered. And then 71% of the students were above or at average growth in Spanish and or English reading, and that's also on the STAR. I don't know what STAR stands for. I can't remember. But it's an important measure that helps us to understand where students are so that we can help them to grow from there. So thank you.
All right, well, good evening. I'm Alicia Ward-Sate, and I'm the principal at Linus Pauling. I'm really excited to be here with this awesome team. I really appreciate when we're able to meet, and I feel like every year we get more aligned and just are growing a K-12 program I think that is the best in the state and maybe in the country. It's just really amazing to work with these folks and with our wonderful teachers that we have. So, I need my slide. There we go. All right. So there's our current enrollment for this year. We're at 772 students. You'll see the dual immersion enrollment broken down by the grade levels. You know, back when I first gave this presentation, what'd you say, Marcian, 7 years ago, we were kind of, you know, waiting for the big growth in the number of students we would get at the middle school. I think this is where we will probably be unless we have bigger growth coming in, larger elementary schools coming, you know, elementary classes coming in, which doesn't look like it'll be, but this will be about where we will sit with our numbers at each one of the grade levels. So it's a robust program. I would say, about 40% of the students, maybe a little less, that are participating in dual immersion at Linus Pauling. We have been really successful in recruiting very strong teachers to work in our program. All are heritage and native speakers of Spanish. I'm really proud of that, and I'm proud of the wonderful education that they are giving our students. Just kind of going down that list, we did start a mariachi band last year. We were lucky in one of our band teacher who left us for a couple years, went to Southern California, got experience teaching mariachi in Southern California, and came back to us. And first thing I did, as soon as I interviewed her and found that out, and of course we were to hire her, I sat down and said, what do you think about starting a mariachi band? And she was very excited, and with the support of the district, we were able to purchase instruments and get that off the ground. So we are very proud of our students in our mariachi band and hoping to grow that as the years pass. So just a really great addition to our school, and it's exciting to hear that Garfield is now also starting that and we'll be able to continue that with their students coming up to us. So that's a really exciting thing. This year I'm excited also about our World Peace Games that we're able to offer as an elective offering in Spanish. One of our dual immersion teachers was actually trained in World Peace Games, I think before the pandemic, and we have dabbled in it in English at Linus Pauling, but now we're able to offer that elective in Spanish. And for those of you that may not know what World Peace Games is, I'm just going to read just a little bit here. It's a hands-on political simulation that gives players the opportunity to explore the connections of the global community through the lens of economics, social, and environmental crisis and the imminent threat of war. The students are highly engaged in this class and in this activity. Everybody kind of finds they all have a role in this game, you know, and in this situation, they're now able to use their Spanish, working through this game. Our teacher, Jose Becerra, who also teaches social studies, is the one teaching it this year, so we're really excited about that. Last year, we had a great end of the year DLI celebration, which we will make something that we will do every year for especially celebrating our 8th graders and all the great work that they've done in middle school, which is really something to celebrate after they've taken the STAMP test, which is our assessment that we give students, which may give them the opportunities to start high school in an AP Spanish class, which is very exciting for them. It's something that they all get a little nervous about, but boy, they all rise to the occasion and do a wonderful job, and I'm proud of them and proud of our staff for the great work that they do. And then you'll see the student demographic there at the bottom. It's about, I would say it's staying about the same. Not a lot of change. That's about what we've been at for quite a few years here, so. Yes? Yeah, school overall, yes, thank you. And then this is just, I think when you start getting to secondary, it's important to know what the course sequence is in the dual immersion program. As you see, Our minimum offering are the two, the social studies class and the Spanish language arts class. So each year there's a different focus. The social studies follows the English curriculum with the same topics in each of the grade levels. The students participate in all of the activities that are done in those social studies classes, just like in English, except obviously in Spanish. Then the Spanish language arts classes are there to really hone in those language skills and really work on that reading and writing to help them get to those levels that they need to possibly be placed in an AP class in high school. The bottom line there is our other pathway through our dual immersion program, which is more of a world language focus. You know, we like to say you can become bilingual in many different ways. And so we want to make sure that we are offering those options for students where these classes may be a better fit. You know, and another thing I think that's important to know, each year when it comes to hiring, we look at our hires and we say, can we find a Spanish speaker to offer a class in, say, another content area, a math class, a science class, something else to really beef up the amount of time that students are in their Spanish and learning Spanish along with learning the content. So that is our goal every year. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm looking forward to next year and hopefully being able to recruit hopefully a math teacher that we can bring in. But as we look at our openings, we'll see what we can do. But yeah, there's Linus Pauling in a nutshell.
Thank you. I'm Salvador Munoz. I shouldn't look up there. It's weird to look at yourself up there. I'm going to look down. I am an assistant principal at Corvallis High School and also athletic director. And this is my second year, the beginning of my second year working with a DLI program. As a former Spanish teacher who got to work with a DLI program in Salem Kaiser, it's really exciting for me to work with our department. We have a great staff, and it's really come a long ways here, since the last time that we presented to the board. With that, we've gone from one teacher to now we have 5, and the makeup of those 5 teachers, we have a staff of color that reflects our students, and it's great for them to see themselves through those teachers. The other thing with that, a highlight for us right now, I'll go into the pathways here in a minute, but having the DLI advisory committee as we're making decisions with some of the changes that we've got to make is pretty crucial for us, because decisions we make really impacts everyone else. So we want to make sure that we're hearing the voices of the other schools that are feeding into ours. Right now, as you see the pathways here, with going to the 7 periods, our students who are in the DLI program are affected. So as far as electives they can participate in, and also if they're an AVID. So we've worked with the DLI advisory committee to look at how many credits we want to require to obtain the biliteracy seal. And right now we've landed on 5. So students in their high school career will be participating in 5 classes for that, and as well as doing the 5 hours of community service, which is another highlight of our program, that students have to go out in the community and use Spanish as a way to give back. Another highlight we have with this is that we're offering global studies as in Spanish as a way to obtain your core credit. So that's really exciting for us, so that students can still, so they don't lose out on an elective credit. I had the pleasure of going into one of the Curso Culminante classes with Amanda, and I spoke to a few of the students and did an activity on the board, and I wanted to voice some of their highlights. we do have some other students in the back who will also get to share a little bit about being, I think that's really the highlight of my piece, that they get to present to you guys. But a couple of the things I heard, I'm just going to read them here. The environment of the program and the classes is supportive and feels like a learning community. The program offers access to perspectives and instruction that is unique in particular to the program and creates depth in overall learning. There's always support, help, and opportunity for learning, practicing Spanish, and expanding abilities. The teachers are good, caring, and supportive. There are special opportunities to interact beyond the classroom with the community within the DLI program. There's opportunities for the future beyond high school that are increased due to bilingualism as far as higher education, workforce, etc. The program is empowering for Spanish-speaking students, especially those who are recent arrivals to the USA. They are given a space to be leaders, be strong examples, and helpful to their classmates. This in turn helps them foster friendships and relationships. And I can tell you when I heard the students say this, it gave me some chills because that student had the opportunity to connect to our high school because of the program. And lastly, the lifelong friendships, and because students have been together for such a long time. So those were some of the things that the students shared. Our hopes really are to continue to grow the program as far as the core classes go. That will really help students in the program with electives. I have this dream of hopefully following the lead of LP and bringing in a math teacher who can, I dream of being able to have students earning Algebra 1 credit in Spanish. I'm also going to mention that I'd love to have BPF in Spanish. So those are things we want to work towards. Alicia mentioned a little bit about this already. We're also trying to figure out the pathways so that students come into AP Spanish language and are able to earn language arts credit for their English side. So those are a couple of the things we're looking at. One other that I'm forgetting is U.S. history and Spanish. We're planting that seed because that would give them another class. So the more core classes they can complete in Spanish, the more they'll have the more spots they'll have for electives. Here we are. Oh, one other thing as well, another dream of mine is to continue the mariachi band, and I've already talked to Matt about this. That's a hope of ours as well, because we want to carry that on. Amanda was kind enough to connect, to gather a little bit of data of some of our alumni in the program, and currently we have 20 of them as teachers, EAs, or office staff within the district. We have 14 of them in the medical and healthcare field. We have 5 who have their own licensed and bonded companies, 8 in finance and business, 8 in engineering and technology, 7 in science and research, 9 in advanced academia, and currently we have 118 students in higher education, and many of them are first generation students. So that's a big win for us. Yeah. There's one other slide, and this kind of shows what our numbers have been since 2014. We're projecting 65 students completing their DLI program this year. With that, that is all I have. Yes. Yes.
Hello, my name is Farron Groom. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm currently at Corvallis High School. I have been part of the dual immersion program since kindergarten. I actually went to Lincoln. I was going to say I went here, but it's very different now. And I've found the dual immersion program has been pretty impactful on me, and more so as I've gotten into high school. Originally, it was just interesting. I found like, oh yeah, like I can, have a class that's tighter knit than most because we all have so many courses together. But as I've gotten into high school, I've had experiences that really solidified for me how important speaking Spanish is going to be for me going to the future. In 2019, my family hosted the Garcia Martinez family, who are from Acapulco, Mexico. They were seeking asylum. And my parents both thought they could speak Spanish, but they definitely had more abilities than I think most people who have taken no classes. But it was very striking to me how much more I was able to communicate. And I've also found speaking Spanish to be really useful. I've been able to read more books and also been able to volunteer work where otherwise language barriers would have just made that impossible. And so have found that going into the future, being part of the dual immersion program has made me have a lot more value for the community I'm in, and I'm hoping to live outside of the United States, knowing that I can learn a second language and potentially learn more, giving me the confidence to think that I could live outside the U.S. and fulfill that dream.
Hi, I'm Alden Lancaster. I go to CHS. I went to Lincoln, just like Farron. I went to Linus Pauling also. I've been in the DI program since kindergarten, and that's always been good. So for me, the DLI program has mainly just given me like a sense of community to have, because for me there isn't very many like African American students in our district or just people in our city, and so it's really given me like a sense of community and like people who that I've grown up around, and I know how to like be a part of something. And for me, it's just given me the opportunity to have like more friends and have more experiences. Like this last year, I went to Spain and I was able to speak fine, and it was great. And for me, it's being part of the program. It makes me want to continue like learning more about the language and the culture surrounding it, and even maybe living or doing like an exchange sometime outside of the U.S. in a Spanish-speaking country. And so it's always been really special to me to be a part of this program.
My name is Jorge Aquino, and yeah, I've been in DI for about like 12 years. I started in kindergarten in South Shore Elementary School in Albany, and then I moved to Garfield, and then LP, and then high school, CHS. But yeah, this program has impacted me a lot because of the teachers. These are teachers that look like me, sound like me, and have lived like me. And I feel like that has been able to, for me to connect with them and actually participate in the class. I wouldn't say I'm the best student, but in Spanish class, I think I do have a glow, and they made me feel that way. And I feel like in the future, having them as an example shows me how to be, a good person. And then in my family, I don't have someone that graduated college, but these people that lived like me have a college degree and succeeded in their field. And I feel like that has made me expand my career options instead of just, working a normal job. And I thank them for that.
Hello, my name is Cynthia Cisneros. I have been a part of the DI program since kindergarten, so it's been 12 years. I attended Garfield Elementary and Linus Pauling, and I am now attending Corvallis High School. The DI program has had a wonderful impact on me. It's allowed me to not lose my roots of having Spanish as my first language. It allowed me to practice and use it in my everyday life and know that there's other people just like me that I can relate to and rely on. It's impacted my future plans a lot. Actually, I want to be an elementary school teacher, and yes, they're actually really amazing examples for me. Being in the DI program really motivates me to just keep going and reach my goal, because I know I'm going to impact a lot of kids and a lot of parents. And as a bilingual teacher, it's going to be a change in the world. So yeah, thank you.
So I just have to say how, like, from my vantage point, to see the educators like standing behind you, but like leaning in with like pride and excitement for all of you. You don't get to see that because of where you're sitting, but I got a chance to see that, and it feels, it's really cool. So thank you for sharing your experiences with us. I don't know what comes next, but thank you so much for.
I have a question for the students, if you may stay. Is that okay? So I wanted to ask the question initially to staff, especially when I started dreaming about things we want to do, adding classes, seeing the trajectory since 2014 in terms of graduation rates. So here's my question, and after I ask the question, I'll give you some time as I build this setting. The program started in 2001, and you've been in the program for about 12 years, and you're telling us about it right now. The question is, if I ask the students in the DLI program in 2035 about the DLI program, how would that look like? What would they tell us? I want you to dream without any constraints. There's no wrong answers. One thing I know for sure, you'll be standing behind the students as their teacher and proud of their work that they have done. They are kindergarteners right now. How would the DLI look like, or what would you say if you were in their shoes as they share in 2035?
I would probably think that the future kids here will probably respond to you guys in Spanish, since our generation are probably going to be teachers, board members, and other things. So I'm really hoping that the kids will be able to talk in Spanish to important people.
I just want to point out that we are no more important than you are.
I actually really like this question. I am currently working at the Garfield After School program, so I work with a lot of the kindergartners, sorry, and all of them speak Spanish. So I think they're going to be really, really grateful for the opportunity, and they're going to be amazing because of the DI program.
Thank you.
Just lots of appreciation.
I was going to say the same thing. Thanks for hanging in there to share your experiences with us. It's good to hear from you all.
Yeah, and you all should also feel free to leave and go do your homework. As the mother of a fellow high school senior.
I got one. You were just getting ready to get up, huh? So I just, like, as you think back about the experience of being in DLI, I would anticipate there's work that comes with that, there's experience that comes with that, and so I'm just kind of thinking about your 13 years now in the program. Are there points in time that you either stand out to you as a moment of success or a moment of challenge that we, as the people who try to make the program as successful as possible, should be thinking about and knowing about, so we can help those kinders who are just starting in the program as they move through the system? And again, you don't have to answer it, but I'm always curious about that.
you repeat the first part of the question, please?
It was a long question, wasn't it? As you think about your 13 years in DLI, are there times that were more challenging, or you felt more challenged or more successful as you moved through the system?
So I was actually part of the first class who got the opportunity to start AP Spanish freshman year. So that was a really big accomplishment. And I moved on to honors Spanish literature, 10th grade, and then AP Spanish literature, 11th grade. So that was a really big accomplishment for me, and my family was really proud because as a Mexican student, having those type of opportunities mean a lot to us. To be represented as being capable of taking those classes as much as any of other people are, other students are, and that was one of my biggest accomplishments that the DI program gave me an opportunity to have.
I want to say that I guess the biggest challenge was only having one class in DI throughout the school year. I wish, actually, now thinking about it, it would have been nice having my father help me with math homework if it was in Spanish. And I feel like with having one class a day of Spanish, some of my Spanish has probably been shed off. And having more Spanish classes is actually a very good idea since we're already surrounded of a world that speaks English. And then some of us forget our Spanish.
Thanks, I appreciate it. Go do your homework.
And then next we have Ana Maria and Gustavo, two former DLI students in our program. I'll let them introduce themselves here.
All right, 2 questions before I start. 1, do I have a time limit? I gotta get it out of the way.
You're way past where we were supposed to be anyways. We started out behind, so we'll give you a little.
All right, sounds good. And then second, am I allowed to say my friends' names or no? Okay, sounds good. I can get started now. So hello, I am Gustavo Esparza. I live in Corvallis. I have a brother who goes to CHS who is soon to graduate. So hopefully Gerardo's watching right now. And I am a recent graduate of Oregon State University, which I actually just got today. And the main reason why I'm here today is to talk about the importance of the Corvallis School District's dual immersion program to my success in life. As some of you know, I'm a class of 2017 graduate of Corvallis High, earning my Oregon State Seal of Biliteracy, aka El Sello Bilingüe, after 13 years of being in the DI program. I want to give a quick shout out to my parents. With all due respect to Franklin, which is a 3-minute walking distance from my current home of 22 years, I am thankful that my parents were informed about the program in 2004 when it was still in its infancy and made the choice to send me farther away to Garfield. I had the delight of having great teachers and staff willing to help out students succeed, building up skills academically and socially in both English and Spanish, with 2 of them right there in the, yeah. The school looks nice, by the way. Big upgrade. Having a core group of students in a class allowed for a sense of familiarity as I transitioned from Garfield to Linus Pauling and from Linus Pauling to Corvallis High. Having classmates that cared about the successes and well-being of fellow peers allowed for my experience to be a very great and fun time. Many of my friendships throughout my school years began and were strengthened with fellow students of the DI program, not just in my grade, but in grades below, with one of them sitting right over here. I was appreciative of the time I had outside the home to converse and work on my Spanish skills with my classmates and friends. Class material allowed me to not just appreciate Latin American cultures and identities, but other world cultures. I am happy that many of my friends are not American born or raised, as I can learn customs, traditions, norms from cultures that are not American based. The opportunity to learn from multiple teachers that embrace the program was something I never took for granted. All of them are great advocates and care about the well-being of their students inside and outside the school setting. I could name all of them, and they know who they are, but I only got a limited amount of time. Their ability to appreciate different perspectives has influenced me to do the same. Present day me is balancing multiple jobs, all relating to helping out others, communicating with different groups of people, offering different perspectives. At the grocery store I work at, I'm one of the few people of color that work there, in addition to being one of the few Spanish-speaking workers there. There are instances where I have to play the translator role for customers, and I'm happy that my bilingual skills come in handy. They are also helpful when coordinating a project for high schoolers on behalf of Casa Latinos Unidos. It is called Jóvenes en Acción, or Youth in Action, where a group of students of the Latino community will learn research steps toward creating an action plan towards an issue that students care about and are impacted by. In addition, I'm also at OSU as an academic counselor for Educational Opportunities Program, EOP, playing a small role in assisting first-year students from traditionally underrepresented backgrounds in maneuvering through university life. I can thank the DI program for teaching me not just the strengths of bilingualism, but teaching me the importance of leadership, advocacy, empowerment, empathy, creativity, teamwork, compassion, and more. Don't just look at me as to why the program is a success. There are many stories out there that highlight why the DI program has played a role in the life successes of former students. Take Malia Bowder, for example. She is currently in Seattle working in the healthcare field as a genetic counselor. Her tasks include creating resources, translating documents, and counseling patients in the hospital setting. Being able to speak Spanish fluently allows the Spanish-speaking patients she interacts with to feel comfortable and connect with her on a deeper level. Malia is super grateful for the DI program, and I can probably assume the same thing for her 2 younger siblings. The DI program was also of great help to one of my longest tenured friends, Curtis Polanco, who attributes the DI program to helping him learn English. It also assisted in his transition from knowing only Mexican culture to also learning about American culture. He is on track to graduate from OSU in the spring of 2023, majoring in business information systems. He spent the summer interning at Deloitte as a financial advisory intern. After graduation, he has a job lined up as a risk and financial advisory analyst. He credits his present and future job look on the time spent in the DI program. Now, if I had unlimited time, I could go all day highlighting the stories of my friends making it big in the world, crediting the DI program for teaching them multicultural and bilingual skills. The dual immersion program has been a success, and I hope to see it continue growing in the upcoming years, producing more quality people who are motivated and determined to make a positive impact in the world. Thank you for listening.
Good evening. My name is Ana Maria Núñez Guzmán, and I'm one of the dual immersion teachers at Corvallis High School. I currently teach DI Lengua y Filología for freshmen and sophomore, and this is my 3rd year as a teacher at CHS, and I'm really excited. So I've been part of the dual immersion program for many years, first as a student and now as a teacher. I had the amazing opportunity to be enrolled in the program back in 2003 when I started kindergarten at Garfield Elementary. In 2015, I graduated from Corvallis High School and I earned the biliteracy seal. I still remember the day when we had our interview. It was terrifying. There was a panel, and one of them was our teacher, Amanda Fijoy, and Alicia was there too. And they really helped us to calm down. And I also remember when I got the news that I had passed the test, and therefore earning the biliteracy seal. So for me, the dual immersion program has impacted me in many ways. It opened the door to many opportunities. I was able to continue learning my native language, Spanish, as I developed my second language, English. Thanks to the ability of being able to learn in 2 languages, I have been able to effectively communicate, interact, and help many individuals. By being part of the DLI program, I was able to embrace my bilingualism and biculturalism It gave me a deeper understanding and connection to my community and to the issues that we face. I was able to learn from teachers who were passionate and who care about their students. I've formed many connections with my peers and my teachers that have lasted many years. Because of my amazing teachers at Garfield, Linus Pauling, and CHS, I decided to become a teacher. They were my role models, and they still are. And now I have the honor to teach and to support my students as they continue to learn and develop their language skills. I get to work each day with some of the most creative, funny, and caring students. I see them helping each other with their grammar, with their reading. I see them talking about different things that are going on in their lives, that are going on in their school. We have dance sometimes during class. We sing. Every day I get to see how my students embrace being bilingual, and most importantly, how they are accepting and respectful of the many cultures that coexist within our classroom. At times it can be difficult, especially when developing a new curriculum and trying to find the resources necessary to teach. But with the support of my colleagues and mentors, everything is possible. I'm part of a great team. And I'm very thankful for the privilege of being part of the dual immersion program as a student and now as a teacher. Thank you.
I think we should do the same prompts. Start with Sammy's and then go to the superintendent's. Yeah, I think the
Same question.
prompts are really good.
Yes. The kindergarteners today are going to have 12 more years, and in 2035, they're going to speak about it. Maybe also the recent graduates are going to speak about it. Tell me more, what things that the program could grow to or change so they will share other things other than that you mentioned. How do you envision the program will be in 2035, 12 years from now?
Kind of a loaded question. I think 13 years from now, if the students are appreciative of the sacrifices, the hard work that their teachers put in to creating a curriculum, a program that cares about their successes both academically, socially, athletically, I feel like it's doing the right job. This is a very loaded question. Jorge pretty much nailed it. As long as we see more people that look like us in the school board, as teachers, as staff, I think the program's doing its job. So.
You heard that right on the way out, so there you go.
I was going to add that we have some openings coming up on the budget committee, and if you are a member of the Corvallis School District community, you can apply for those positions. So,
trying to maybe get a fourth job?
sadly, none of us are paid.
And so my question was, just to restate it, like over the 13 years, are there high points and low points that you think we should know about and be thinking about?
At least in my time, I know that around junior, senior year after the AP exam, luckily right now I've noticed that the program's like evolved as far as the AP classes, the honors classes that are being provided. I think it was a good change, because I think after junior year there's like that high point, oh, we just did the AP test, get a 5 on the AP test, and you think that there's probably not really a reason to continue learning Spanish or working on it. So I think as long as it keeps evolving and understand both the highs and the lows that come with it and work around it to improve it, then I see that the program is continuing to be in the right direction, producing high quality people to put out high quality people that make a difference in the world.
For me, I think that when I was a student, I only had one class in Spanish with an amazing teacher. And now I'm really happy to see that we are offering 2 classes in Spanish, at least for the freshmen, sophomores. And I do hope that in the future we can offer more classes in Spanish so our students can get more language exposure.
Thanks. I appreciate it. It's really helpful information for us to hear and think about and know about. I would send you home to go to do your homework, but I know that that's not the case anymore.
You've got to go grade other people's homework.
Or volunteer somewhere in the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, questions. I have a few, but I'll pick out a couple. I have a question about, that was specific, okay, hold on. This one is really specific to Garfield, and I did want to say I really appreciate at the secondary level looking at core classes in Spanish to allow for more electives. I think that's amazing and much needed, so that's just a comment that I wanted to share. And at Garfield, you were talking about working more with families from Guatemala, and I'm wondering if there are a high concentration of like Quiche or other indigenous language speaking, or if it seems like it's Spanish, and how that's being incorporated into the conversations of support for families from that region. So that's kind of that question. It was already on.
So Lou, are you asking what language?
Yeah, like if it's because it's like focused, I know the program itself is Spanish, and I understand that, and I think it's needed. But I know that a lot of families from that region in particular that are up here speak an indigenous language. And so I'm wondering like how that overlap is working, for especially if you're doing specific outreach in Garfield. Or if it's something if you don't have an answer now, that's okay, but I'm just throwing that out there as like a potential to kind of think about.
Yes, so our Guatemalan community, Mom-speaking community, has really grown over the last several years. And so we have been very intentional to work with our community partners to support and connect with our Mom-speaking community. Vivian is here, one of our health navigators, and she has been instrumental in helping us connect and create opportunities for the Mom-speaking community to come together with Garfield staff and this was pre-COVID, so we're trying to get back to that. But just to have events that are really culturally appropriate for the community, and having folks in those spaces that even serve as interpreters. And our interpreters is a graduate of ours that was able to be a bridge between what the community is needing and what resources we want to make sure that the families have. And so I think it's an area that we're definitely growing in.
Okay.
Hopefully I answered your question.
Yeah, it did.
Lou.
I was just,
Okay.
because it was a targeted community within the community, and I just understand the dynamics there, and that's why I was asking what those efforts look like, or if that's already in works and stuff, so thank you. And then the other one is across the board with the DLI program, if there's the incorporation of, I love the examples given of like sharing culture and music and everything, and if there's talk about incorporating experience of Afro-Latinx community and indigenous communities within the Spanish-speaking community, if that's already woven in. I didn't hear it highlighted, and so I was just wondering if it is, and if not, if that's something that's being looked at as being incorporated into programs and stuff.
Talk a little bit to that. Some of the pieces that we have in place are our racial equity lessons that do discuss different Latinx populations. And so all of the teachers are using the equity lessons in their classrooms, and we've specifically carved out a chunk of time to make sure that we're all doing that in alignment and having school projects at the end of each section of equity lessons, so that we are all recognizing this across the board. There's also Heritage Months that we're putting in place at Garfield, and making sure that this is part of our assembly work and a part of our cross-school discussions and what's being put up on the walls and celebrated and recognized. And although I know that those might feel, I don't know, maybe in some places more tokenistic, I think at Garfield, because we have such a large student and staff population of color, it's sort of organic and natural for that to be part of our discussion and part of our world and part of our daily work and focus. And so definitely Afro-Latinx populations are a part of the discussions in all of those components.
That was for everyone question. No, thanks.
I would agree with Nancy, and I see how it's integrated, and really the equity lessons is a foundation that's consistent across the building here at Lincoln, and the Heritage Months being celebrated and having more intentionality around that is helpful as we think about what used to be our leadership and equity committees being separate. Our equity committee is our leadership team, and having that, there's more synergy and momentum in moving forward. And I also concur with the caution of it feeling like a token approach, because it is efforts that are being propelled forward and highlighted from our staff of color and allies. It's definitely authentic. If you look at our walls when you're getting pizza, if you got pizza, if you didn't, you might still be hungry, but I would invite you to take a look at our walls and just see some of those examples of efforts being led by our leadership equity team.
I would just say, I think the focus at the middle school is really looking at the reading material that students are reading in the Spanish language arts classes, and making sure, because the Spanish speaking world is so diverse, is to making sure that we're getting all of those voices from the many different areas and the many different peoples that live in those lands. And so as we continue to develop our Spanish language curriculum and alignment, et cetera, those are definitely things that we will be focused on. I do believe we do a little bit of that, but I think we need to be a little more intentional in making sure that we are including the diversity that exists in the Spanish-speaking world. So, great question.
And I would kind of echo what Alicia just said as well, that the students are discussing these topics within the curriculum, but we could probably be a little more intentional. We've had a campaign for Hispanic Heritage Month, but I think that's an opportunity for us to be more intentional as well.
Great, thanks y'all. Yeah, I think it's just because I know like it's the diversity of the Latinx community and like being part of it as well in some regards. And having those areas, especially the way that anti-indigeneity and anti-blackness shows up in the commitments as a district we have. I was really curious how it's being incorporated into the DLA program right now, or what your plans were, and look forward to hearing more about that in the future. So thank you so much.
Thanks. This was a really fantastic presentation, and I feel a little terrible actually asking a question this late, but I really want to know the answer to this. So my question is about the relationship between dual immersion and special education. And I guess it's kind of a layered question, really kind of starting with just how would you describe the way in which you approach co-collaboration for serving DLI students that are also accessing special education services? And then where do you see a need for growth opportunities regarding those special education students? And I have a list of like specific things I want to know about those students, but I'll email those because you probably don't know those off the top of your head anyway. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to hear a little bit about.
Is it on? Okay. I think the exciting growth area is in regards to staffing as well, right? Sometimes we think of special education as just providing services in the form of an IEP, but special education services sometimes are student services in the way of 504 plans or whatnot. And I think there's a disparity in our system of how folks can access those services, and just being really mindful and using our equity lens questions to guide our decisions around how we improve our systems within our schools and our processes so that families can receive the services and that we're really aware of any disparities as we're tracking who's getting services, who has the power in making those decisions. We both share special education. Maybe I'm not supposed to say this because that's my microphone breaking out. This year, who is Spanish speaking bicultural, and that has been huge. We just, had a meeting recently led by this teacher and a native Spanish speaking teacher who afterwards just was in awe, saying that previously she had felt just this weight of having to advocate for the family, and to see this advocacy happen and the connection happen in the family's ability to access services now. It's been a game changer. And also having family liaison in our building who is bicultural, native Spanish speaker, who can be one added member to this pretty tricky process. And then in addition, we have health navigators who often will help advocate for families to access services, medical services that might lead to accommodations and whatnot. So,
yeah, I think what I would add to that is just a celebration of having an environment and that is welcoming and feels safe for families, and having people that speak their language, so that maybe in the special ed realm, we still have some growth to do as far as bilingualism goes, but in the whole school, as far as the front office staff, teachers, and assistants, there are always people to process things with, to ask questions through, and to advocate for families. And so that's an exciting place to be, and I just really look forward to continuing to grow our bilingual staff.
I would just say that I think this is an area where I think we're working in, but also an area of growth. Obviously, our teachers differentiate within their classroom to accommodate students that are on IEPs. I think, at least for Linus Pauling, having, hopefully in the future, having a bilingual special education teacher would be very, very helpful, who understands that cross between special education and language acquisition. And so that would be a great person to land in a position at LP, and so definitely looking for that. I also do think like training for our teachers who are teaching in a second language, and having to use lots of different methodology, and maybe better to help them understand how to support students within the classroom that are on IEPs with certain accommodations would always be an area of growth, and would be something very helpful. And then the continuation of having our bilingual educational assistants assisting in the classroom with students that may need just that extra help to get through the material, and to be able to fully engage in the classroom. So there's, I think there's some areas of growth, and some definitely some personnel to find to be able to help us with that.
I think the only thing I'd add to what Alicia just said, because it's very similar as well, is, and I use this for a math, when I'm talking about looking for a math teacher that is bilingual, is that special education teacher who's bilingual is probably choosing what district they want to go to, And so we need to find a way to attract them to Corvallis, Oregon. So, and I did want to correct one thing, because I was saying earlier, you know, my dream, but it's actually our dream as a team at Corvallis High School. So hopefully it didn't seem like it was just my decision, because it is our team hope that we are able to bring those core classes in Spanish.
Thank you. I just would encourage this to be a topic where we have a lot of parent engagement, because I know that, you know, there's a lot embedded in special education that really does reflect other aspects of culture. And so I appreciated the reference to bicultural and recognizing that even the way in which we would conceptualize a learning need or an unmet learning need could really vary based on people's backgrounds. And so I'm just glad to hear there's some awareness and sensitivity to that. And I suspect that you've got more than a handful of parents in the community that would jump at the chance to participate in a dream session about what bilingual special education could look like. And so if there is ever an interest in that, I'm pretty sure you could drum up the people that would come and say, this is what we think worked or didn't work for our kids. And this is what the question that Sammy asked about, will the class of 2035 be able to say? I hope they would be able to say is that there are bilingual special education kids getting their seal of biliteracy. Because I don't know that that is necessarily, that they are adequately represented right now, but I know that that's attainable. So I think that, I'm going to answer your question, Sammy. I think that's what, that's an area that we could go. I'm also supposed to say hi to Mr. Villa-Williams for Quinlan. He misses Garfield, and we had some great years there. So when I told them that the dual language is coming tonight, he said, oh, say hi to my old teachers. And I said, I'll make sure that they know that you loved it there. So thanks.
Go do your homework.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sorry. The school board meeting has resumed. The next item on our agenda is the Division 22 report and action.
Hi, everybody. I've been watching you use these microphones for multiple sessions. This is my first time, so I hope I learned something. We'll see. I have presented to you the Division 22 report, which, as you read and are well aware of, is the report that we need to file each year with ODE to show that we're following standards. The report that you have is the report for the 2021, 2020, no? Yes, 2022 school year. Yep. So that's where we're at. Happy to report that we are in full compliance for the first time I've ever experienced it. So that's super exciting. And all of our plans that we had to send to the state last year to say that we were going to move towards compliance, all of them were accepted, all of them were completed. I think the couple of things I want to focus on quickly is, and the questions that I received were about PE, so I want to talk about that a little bit. So and then I had another question about instructional minutes, so I'll talk about that as well. Okay, so first to talk about PE, and this goes to the question that I received about PE at the middle school. And are we going to meet the 225 minutes of PE at middle school that are required for this school year in next November's report? And we're probably not going to. And that is something that we need to talk about as a prioritization that we've created for middle school. The middle school teachers who teach or have taught health PE for a very long time in a semester system, their feedback was, it's really hard for us to cover all of those health standards in a very intentional way when we teach, you know, soccer for like 4 days, and then one day we come in and we talk about healthy sexual relationships. It's just kind of a weird thing. So they really asked if they could, we could do something different. The trimester schedule that we created for middle school requires students to take 2 trimesters of PE and 1 health. Unless you're a DLI student, it's 1 and 1. But what we've created and prioritized is a standalone health class, and that standalone health class is taking a look at topics like mental wellness, healthy relationships, healthy behaviors, sexual abuse prevention, healthy sexuality, gender identity, all of the things that we need to cover in our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade health standards. So that's where we've laid our priority, it really is kind of a testament to what the health teachers want to do a better job of covering those topics, and that meets, you know, our board goals as well. So that's where that question ends. We meet our PE minutes for elementary using our teachers doing active things in the classroom, but also recess, because that's considered physical activity. So that's how we meet those minutes, and we're excited that we have the opportunity now to have a gym aside from a cafeteria so that we can do more PE and make it a little bit easier to schedule during the day. And then I wanted to hit the questions on required minutes. And what you're going to be asked to do today is to make a motion to publish this on the website, our report, and also to authorize us to use up to 30 hours of professional development time, 30 hours of parent-teacher conference time, and up to 60 hours of recess for K through 3. The reason we're doing that is because we need to have that flexibility in case unforeseen things happen, so that we're not having to add days at the end of the year. We have that flexibility to do that. I think back to last year, and we really were like down to the hours, taking a look at, for example, Bessie Coleman, needing to close Bessie Coleman a little early and start it up after winter break a little bit later so that we could get teachers in to do what they needed to do, and still that didn't impact our classroom minutes. So that's the kind of flexibility that we're looking for, and that's why we're asking for that in this motion. So those are really the things I wanted to hit, and if you have any questions, I'm here. Beyond those.
If you have a question, are you making a motion? Motion. Okay, just go ahead.
Madam Chair, I move to approve the Division 22 reports for submission to ODE and to be published on the district website, and authorize the district to include up to 30 hours of professional development time, up to 30 hours for parent-teacher conferences, and up to 60 hours of recess for students in grades kindergarten through grade 3 for calculation of instructional hours.
I'll second.
So it has been moved by Director Alabdreva and seconded by Director Whitebear. Take a vote if there's no further discussion. Director Whitebear?
Aye.
Director Tomini?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Director Baker?
Aye.
Director Alabdreva?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Passes unanimously. Okay. The next item on our agenda is the adoption of the board and superintendent working agreement and board norms. Is there any discussion or questions, or should we move to make a motion?
Actually, I have a, sorry.
Okay.
I do have a question. The document that we have here, is it a revised one or is it the one that has been adopted previously?
So both documents have been revised. Good question. So I met with the superintendent. We reviewed the board superintendent working agreements. The part that affected the board norms was the mention of communication. If you go to the bottom of the norms document, you'll see, I believe it's 3 bullet points discussing communication. We felt that moving that over into the norms just seemed more germane to that document. And then we made a few adjustments, language adjustments, not major ones, to the board superintendent working agreement. We felt that retaining most of that language was important. There weren't any significant deviations.
Yeah, I was just going to say there wasn't anything substantive that we changed. And then it did feel like the communication needed to just, and it was out of the conversation, just reviewing, do we need to hold on to this? And that's when it occurred to make the shift.
It was a comment. I was just going to thank Vince for taking all our feedback and revising it and putting that work in and working with Ryan on the other one. Thank you.
Truly my pleasure.
I move to adopt the 22-23 board and superintendent working agreements as submitted.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved by Director Jones and seconded by Director Alabdreva that we adopt the board and superintendent working agreements. Director Whitebear?
Aye.
Director Tomini?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Director Baker?
Aye.
Director Alabdreva?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Passes unanimously. Now on to board norms. Is there any discussion about or questions about the board norms?
I should have saved that comment for this one. My bad, but.
But we still thank Vince for taking that on.
We'll entertain a motion if somebody wishes to make a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to adopt the 2022-23 board norms as submitted.
Second.
Sorry. It has been moved by Director Alabdreva and seconded by Director Jones that we accept, that we adopt the board norms. Director Whitebear?
Aye.
Sure.
Director Tomini?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Director Baker?
Aye.
Director Alabdreva?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you. It's been passed unanimously. Now, thank you, Vince.
Thank you.
On to consolidated action. As a reminder, the items under this portion of the agenda are for action. Does anyone have a question about anything in consolidated action? Vince? If there's no discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move to approve a consolidated action.
Second.
Been moved by Director Laudrup and seconded by Director Jones that we adopt the items in consolidated action. Director Whitebear?
Aye.
Director Tomany?
Aye.
Director Jones?
Aye.
Director Adams?
Aye.
Director Baker?
Aye.
Director Laudrup?
Aye.
I vote aye. And on to consolidated information. As a reminder, the items in this portion of the agenda are for discussion. Would anyone like to discuss an item in consolidated information?
Madam Chair, I'd like to pull the June 22nd financial statements.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else they would like to pull? Sammy?
No,
Okay.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so go ahead.
So a question for Olivia, and I sent this in as an email. You know, looking at the June 22nd financial statements, we see a 1% reduction in the ending fund balance between fiscal year 2021 to 2022. And I was curious as to why, you know, what was the drawdown? And then also looking forward, what can we expect in the next budget?
Okay. I replied to your email, but it was late today, so you probably haven't seen it yet.
I'm sorry, I
That's
haven't
okay.
seen it.
Let me find it. So last year, the general fund operated at a deficit of $184,321. Considering our total budget is about $84 million, we were pretty solid last year, which is rare to kind of spend and receive about the same. The ending fund balance decreased by 1% because the denominator in that calculation changed because our operating revenues increased quite a bit from the previous year. So from 2021 to 21-22, our operating revenues increased by 4.7 million. So the ending fund balance and the amount of the ending fund balance didn't change very much because it only decreased by about $184,000. The percent of operating revenue looks a lot different because the denominator for that calculation changed because the operating revenues went up. In a scenario when you have excess reserves above policy, if we were to try to maintain that same percent from one year to the next, we would have had to spend less money, which kind of seems weird to be operating in a surplus when you don't really have a specific purpose for doing that. And so for last year, it seemed pretty good that we ended where we did. The projection didn't change a whole lot. I looked at the May financials that were provided to the board in June, and it changed, I want to say maybe by $500,000. Our total spending ended up being a little bit more than what we had projected it to be, but pretty stable. The second part to your question was about what it looks like for this year.
Yeah, but then now the follow-on question doesn't make a lot of sense because I was really fixating on the numerator part of that calculation. And I'm assuming that the change in the denominator value was really rooted in probably one-time monies, you know, like grant funding related to COVID relief, I'm guessing?
There were a lot of factors about our projected revenue last year. The state school fund was kind of weird. Like our enrollment was less than what we had projected, but the dollar amount per student ended up going up quite a bit between when we developed the budget and where we landed. I guess we're still technically not done because they won't reconcile that until May. So during the course of the year, the dollar amount per ADMW did go up quite a bit. So even though our enrollment was less than projected, our revenues were higher than projected, and same with our property tax revenues, which is pretty standard. We're pretty conservative when we budget for those, and so the actual receipts were a little bit higher than what we had originally budgeted. So last year was a little, I mean, it was tricky in terms of projecting expenditures because it was kind of the first year we had kind of a normal spending year. And so we weren't 100% sure what kind of inflationary factors for things like student transportation and even some of the staffing, just because we knew a lot of positions were vacant in the first part of the year we were trying to bring people back in after being in remote learning or limited in-person learning. So yes, so the reason why it looks different from a percent perspective is mostly just due to the fact that it's not necessarily apples to apples when you look at it from the percent perspective, but from the dollar perspective, it didn't change very much.
Right, and so that's where my question was stemming from, is being fiscally conservative, and it's like, why are our reserves going down? But what that was just a misunderstanding on my part.
Sure.
So thank you for...
It does look different in the current year.
Okay, so tell me about that.
So the agenda tonight also includes the projections for July and August that reflect through the end of this year. Mm-hmm. We're really early in the year, so those numbers are going to change. Yeah. But all of the factors that we're sort of collecting at the moment are all kind of resulting in negative changes. Our enrollment's less than projected. Our property tax receipts probably aren't going to be more than what they were budgeted at. We know our expenses are going to be more because of some of the agreements that we're tentatively, in the process of making. Mm-hmm. And so that's going to look a lot different. And we'll probably be really close to that 12.5% policy percent at the end of this year. But we are starting to do some things right now to kind of make sure we don't get too low to that number, because we know we need to be more well-positioned moving into the following year. So we have started implementing some shifts and utilizing grants in different ways and starting to get creative on how we can protect the general fund a little bit more moving into next fiscal year.
Great. The hour's late. Thank you for indulging my esoteric question.
You're welcome.
Yeah, first of all, thank you, and I know I sent questions offline. Thanks for answering them in detail. I would like to actually pull out JGAB policy on seclusion, if that's okay. And my question is, on this policy, have we recently used seclusion cells as defined by policy? Question mark, what other methods does the district staff use for situations that would have triggered the use of seclusion cells in the past? And what is the professional development look like to ensure compliance with the policy change?
Sure. So no, we have not used seclusion cells. They're not part of our practice. This is just an add-on to that restraint and seclusion policy. We have not been in the practice of using anything like a seclusion cell. And I know, I think, Vince, you sent a question too about that what we have to look at is the difference between what is seclusion and what is a seclusion cell. And yes, we have restraint and seclusion as a policy. Do we use it? Very incredibly so infrequently. And in talking to our district trainers and our district behavior staff, we teach it, but we have the ability to use it, but we highly discourage seclusion and would have to really get to a place that is very serious before we would do that. As far as training, professional development, we have ongoing nonviolent crisis intervention training that includes de-escalation, disengagement, and holding skills for our staff through something called Crisis Prevention Institute. We have a staff member who's a certified trainer, and they focus on trauma-informed practice with regard to de-escalation to avoid these kinds of situations in the first place. So let's not get into a situation where we would have to restrain or even to do seclusion. And we also work with staff on training about how we can create 5-point plans, behavior plans, safety plans, other interventions before we get to that place. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Okay. So moving along, the next item on our agenda is board member comment. Does anyone have a comment they would like to share? Lou?
This is a ask for Ryan and team, is for a future meeting to bring a report of some sort for us that's regarding disciplinary action at the secondary level. Especially interested in a cross-analysis with gender, race, and abilities, and a review of related policies along those lines. That would be super helpful for us to see. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone else have a comment they'd like to share? No. With that, we are adjourned.
Almost at the end.
No good board
Really?
happens after